The reason I started doing these walking tours is that I would walk my dog along the beautiful waterfront here and start talking to tourists. And they would have bewildered looks on their faces because they arrived by ferry and they didn't know what to do once they got here. And I'd start telling them about the history. And one day someone said to me, "You really ought to lead walking tours here." And I thought, So my name is Elliott Brown, and I'm a resident of Tiburon. And I've become more and more fascinated by the history of this area. Well, you know, Tiburon's a little off the beaten track for most tourists. They know about Sausalito, and often the tourists I speak to tell me that it's a friend of theirs or someone at a hotel who has said, if you want something a little bit off the beaten track, instead of taking the ferry to Sausalito, or in addition to taking the ferry to Sausalito, take a ferry to Tiburon. So here we have Sam's Cafe, probably the most iconic restaurant, maybe the most iconic building here in downtown Tiburon. It'll be celebrating its 100th anniversary next year. Sam originally started selling to railroad workers on the beach in 1920. And the restaurant was built around 1925 and then renovated in the 1930s in Art Deco style, and it pretty much remains the character it had back then. Speaking of character, Sam himself was quite a character. He came here from Malta. He was an immigrant and became very successful. He became probably the most successful bootlegger in Northern California during Prohibition. Because of the way Tiburon is situated, the saloon keepers downtown here always got advance notice whenever they were about to be raided. And Sam got notice, made sure that he stored his liquor away from the restaurant, and then kept a pint out. The story goes that he was given a citation, and he and his friend went down to meet the judge, Judge Helmore in Sausalito, and he walked in, said, "Hi, Judge." Of course, the judge had been a regular customer of his at his saloon. He said, "Hi, Judge, how are you doing?" And the judge said, "Hi, Sam, how are you doing?" And Sam said, "Fine, Judge." And the judge said, "Fine, Sam, $5." The building at 32 originally was built in the 1890s, but it burned in the 1890 fire, burned again in the 1921 fire. So it was restored with a Victorian false front and pretty much looks today the way it did back then. Tiburon was, from the 1880s on, as I mentioned, it was a rough and tumble railroad town.